All
Hey,
right. Hey, Colin. It's good to see
how you
you
doing?
again, man.
Good to
I'm
see you
great. You're
too.
looking nice and warm. I'm freezing here. I'm in Jamaica, yeah, but I'm in the countryside today, northeastern Jamaica. And you guys have states. We have parishes, which are little teeny tiny states, right?
Yeah.
That segment the country. And so I'm in the northeastern parish called Saint Mary, and it's typically much colder here than in Kingston in the city. Yeah, much colder, and we get a lot more rain in St. Mary. So it's been raining for like the past 2 hours, and there's like 3 more days of this.
Is it
So
like a
so I'm a little
remote
on the
town?
chilly side.
Is it like a remote
No,
town?
no, not at all. It's smack in the middle of the parish. It's like the central hub. Everybody has to pass through here. Well, not have to, but it's pretty popular. Called Highgate. It's on a hill, so go figure. Yeah, so this is where I grew up, in this very house. So it brings back
Oh,
memories whenever I come and see family and eat their food and leave. So my wife and I are here for like 2 days, two
that's
days,
nice.
3 nights. Yeah, yeah, man. Uh,
Um, what do you still have like friends that live there? Like, or has everyone kind of moved to Kingston or other areas? What's the vibe like when you go back?
good chunk have moved to Kingston. Yeah, either Kingston or to the neighboring parish, which houses Ocho Rios, which is a popular tourist destination. But primarily moved to the city, Kingston. When I come back home, I don't see a lot of people that I know, except for neighbors, except for church brothers and sisters, and people that work in the town. Been there, for a while, still there, doing good work. But it's always a warm feeling when I come back home, like relaxing for sure. And when the internet is working, then that just puts the perfect cherry on top. Yeah. Well, how was your weekend?
Oh, weekend was good, man. It was relaxing. Saw family. On Friday, I went to a networking event. They have some real exciting things that are happening in Atlanta, and I was particularly, I got an opportunity to see like there's a big tech scene here, and there's one main entrepreneur. His name's David Cummings, and they are investing heavily in trying to remake the city of Atlanta into like an entrepreneurial hub. It's a big project. As someone that grew up here in Atlanta, they're taking it the downtown area and trying to revitalize it. They bought up all this land, and their vision is to try to make it like envision like a college campus for startups, like for young people to be able to move to Atlanta and partake in like a college campus environment in which all people are like building things. It's a big vision, but the current area of where they're building is, let's just say, not really safe right now.
Mm.
It's the place in Atlanta that growing up in my mind you want to avoid. Like there's no reason to go down there, but they bought up the land and they're trying to revitalize it. So I saw him speak recently, just last week, yeah, it's so interesting to kind of hear like an entrepreneur talk about a 20-year vision. Because I mean, this is going to take a long time. I mean, like to think about like how to change a city, uh, that's a big vision. Most people, it was just it's just it's very like not only eye opening but inspiring to think that like in 20 years, an entire area of the city in which where like I still think today it's like you want to avoid that area to hear what they have to say about what they want, like the vision that they have for like a group of young people to come visit and then like want to live and build in that area. It's an inspiring vision that I hope it works, but it's like, to hear someone who has a 20-year vision is not, you don't come across those types of people every day. Not only have the vision, but are the ones that are actively making it happen.
Yeah, he's like he can put his money where his mouth is. David Cummings is worth $95 million.
To be honest, that's on the
So
low end. That's on the low
yeah,
end.
really.
Because here, this is the story. What actually happened was This is what happened in Atlanta. If you looked him up, he built a marketing software company. He's like the generation above us. So he's probably in his 50s or so. He was one of the first marketing automation companies that sold to Salesforce and made like $95 million. And so he wanted to invest in the city of Atlanta, and he wanted to specifically create the environment that he wished he had. So he bought a building in Atlanta. This is like in 2012. And he spent, I don't know, let's say like $15 million on this massive building. And everyone told him he was crazy because you're never going to get that money back. And what are you going to do with this massive building? It's like a really good area of Atlanta. And it's like 100,000 square feet. And that became what they call the Atlanta Tech Village. So it's a co-working space, but he aggregated a bunch of people around the city of Atlanta to provide mentorship and support for entrepreneurs to try to help them grow software-based businesses. And so specifically, he built what he wished he had because he was alone, isolated online, like, and had no support during those early days that it was very like hard. So he wanted to create an entrepreneurial hub because this is what he was talking about. His vision is, he says, entrepreneurs love helping entrepreneurs, but it's hard to create an environment in which entrepreneurs can help entrepreneurs. Because if you meet somebody and they see that you're passionate and they want to support you, but like, how do you make it easier for people to ask for help and like give back? So that was his idea. How do you create an incubation place, a central hub for entrepreneurs? And he said, people said you would never get the money back, but what his envision was, I don't care if I get the money back. Imagine all of the startups that are going to create enterprise value that are going to come out of there. So have you ever heard of like Calendly as an example?
Yeah. Everybody knows Calendly. I use Calendly. I'm like two.
Calendly started in that tech village, and David Cummings was the early investor in that. Like, have you ever heard of in that company? Have you heard of SalesLoft? It's another sales tool.
Yeah.
Started in the tech village, and David Cummings was an early investor. So basically what he did was he created a hub where builders came, needed help, got the resources they needed, and then had massive growth because of the support systems that were in place. So David Cummings is worth way more than that because, and he even says this, there's been billions of enterprise value that have come out of that area. So most people were thinking so short term of, oh, you're never going to get the real estate, value worth more than what you paid for it. It's a bad real estate transaction. And he was like, I don't care about the real estate. Imagine all of the enterprise value we could create for the city in software if we create a hub for people to like come get support and help and like, give back to the community. And so his investments through those companies have made him way more money than I think he's even made at Pardot, which is the original marketing software that he got that net worth because of his venture capital arm of companies that have come out of there. And so what happened was, and this is what I saw him talk about, was there was an opportunity. There's this story of like in Atlanta, there's this area in downtown that over the last like decade, this like German like real estate arm like bought up all of these dilapidated properties and put them all together. And they used debt to consolidate all of the properties. And then when the pandemic hit and interest rates went up, they let go of the project and they were like, we don't want to do this anymore. They just identified that area of Atlanta as like a potential opportunity to invest in. And so when that happened, they were going to sell off all of this real estate in 2023, 2020. It was like 2024, I think. No, it's actually 2020 at the end of like 2023. It's actually like 6 months ago. They were about to sell it all off in pieces. And so him and some partners swooped in because they were basically, it was like a fire sale to keep it all together because it was like an opportunity to purchase like 1 million square feet in this downtown Atlanta that was already put together for a good investment. And so they have the money that they're like, okay, well, instead of using debt, which is a bad financial vehicle, let's put up our own cash and let's think about how we do this as an entrepreneurial like thing for like 20 years. So we don't need to make money on it right away, but this is for the city of Atlanta. What can we do with 1 million square feet? Instead of 100, we saw what the enterprise value we were able to create with 100,000 square feet. What can we do for 1 million square feet in an awesome area of Atlanta if we're in this for 20 years? And so the idea is to create multiple tech villages, one for robotics, one for AI, one for all different for software. So the idea is, how do you create a little community for all young people to flock to Atlanta and say, hey, I have an app idea. I need like a UX person, or I need an app developer. And they're all in this little like town hanging out in different places, like a college vibe that you could kind of live, breathe, find investment all within the city of Atlanta. That's the vision. But the thing is, I live in Atlanta. I know what's there now. And it's all like homeless people. And like, you don't want to be there after dark. And so it's like, wow, that's a big vision to change, 1 million square feet. But it's prime area. It's like, that would be so much better for the city if that existed. It's near the Falcons Stadium. It's near the Hawks Stadium. It's like right where you would want to be if you're young, but like, it's not safe. Like you don't want to be there at all now. But to hear him talk and the vision and putting up money, and it's all based off of the startups, I'm like, well, one, for Pursue Networking, that's why I kind of moved back to Atlanta to partake in that, because I want to be the next Calendly or the next Sales Loft, mostly because I feel like, my personality type, which I already see. That's why I've shared this with you offline, where I just feel like the Tech Village has been super helpful for me, because it's a community of people who do want to help. That doesn't mean, it's kind of like when you network on LinkedIn. People want services. You got to like prove that you're worth, helping. But, if you could go and network, there's a group of people there that like are looking to help entrepreneurs that are willing to help themselves. So it's like, they're not going to build it for you, but they will download your product and give you honest feedback, or they will talk about go to market strategy, or they will talk about like design or pricing, or like all these things that like are very hard concepts to put together. Like, how do you price things? How do you build websites? How do you like, what's best practices for like engineering teams as someone that's maybe not technical? Like, how do you find someone who is technical that has built products before that can answer your questions and is not like trying to ask you for money, but they're just happy to talk with you? That's what the Tech Village is. So I go every week. I've been every week for close to 2 years. I sit in the room and I talk to everybody. And basically just, a lot of people have told me, they're like, yeah, Tope, he's the CEO of Calendly. They're like, he was sitting here just like you are at one point in time doing the exact same thing. Yeah, that's the story of the Tech Village. That's why Atlanta is like a great place to build specifically B2B software companies. And the story is they want to expand that even more. It's inspirational.
Yeah, that is inspirational. I can think of places here in Jamaica that people do not necessarily want to be in the daytime, much less at night, and
Yeah.
especially not at night. But I see there's been developments there. Like one of our largest telecommunications companies actually is headquartered downtown. Right? They've put literally a hotel downtown, really nice, fancy place called the Rock, ROK, the Rock, overlooking the waterfront. The Kingston Harbor is beautiful, but you just don't want to be down there after dark, right?
Yeah.
And so I see developments taking place there, even from a creative standpoint. Like Kingston Creative is sort of like tech village, but kind of instead of tech, it's for creatives, whether it be photography, visual arts, fashion, music, performing arts, etc. And I see them doing a lot in the downtown area. In fact, they have events there every last Sunday of the month where creatives can come, or whoever, and experience art in the streets, on the walls. And you'll have small business owners showcasing pieces that they've made with jewelry or maybe books they've written. etc. So that, and there's performances. So I do see that there is merit to investing in a place where people would not necessarily call their first choice. People would probably go uptown as their first choice, right? Because it's
Yeah,
already polished. But uptown was probably a downtown at some point in history.
yeah, yeah,
so so I'm excited
yeah.
to see what happens over there in Atlanta, but also here in downtown in Kingston as well. Yeah.
One day you'll come visit me, and I'll have you walk around that area, and you'll even be like, "Well, it's nice, but it's a fixer upper. It's a fixer upper for sure." Um, but yeah, it's interesting. It's like the headlines are all like the tech bros, planning their vision for Atlanta. And it's like I believe in them. I believe that they'll make it happen because they have the money, they have the vision, and they have the support of the community. So it's like the city wants them to be successful. It's just that's a massive project. That's like hard to even wrap your head around. How do you change a city, right? Like, but you see him, and it's like, well, he's already changed businesses. It's kind of his last, like the next frontier of his life, uh, to change a city. So yeah, it's inspirational.
Yeah, I will take you up on that offer. In fact, my brother is in Atlanta,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, my brother is in Atlanta. My big sister is, I think she's in Atlanta as well, in college. I think Emory.
Yep. Oh
Emory.
yeah, Emily's a
Yeah,
great
she's
school.
at she's at Emory, and my mom and a couple of brothers are in Stone Mountain. So so yes, I am due for a visit.
Have you ever been to Stone Mountain?
No, I haven't.
That's
I
I've
haven't.
taken a lot of people to Stone Mountain. That's like the most southern thing, like this, like quintessential southern thing you can do. It's great people watching. One day.
Okay, okay. Interesting. So, Colin, so we know networking online is not the same as offline, but at the same time, there are some similarities. When you walk up to somebody at the tech village that you visit, the networking event every week, you don't just pitch in the first sentence, now, do you? It's probably something a little warmer, like, "Hi, I maybe saw your work else, here or there, and I think it's great. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're doing, or hey, I'd love to network with you about X, Y, or Z." It's kind of personalized, is it not?
Yeah, personalization is the key. It's the key to conversion rate, like conversion based networking. Um, Being precise with your language, being precise with your research, being able to be direct on what you're trying to achieve. That's the skill set. It's harder to do that a little bit on LinkedIn, but in person, it's actually that's why I've actually enjoyed the Tech Village because you can look up who these people are and come in with genuine curiosity and like a genuine interest and have done your research to say, hey, I like want to speak with you because you are like I spoke with someone on Friday with who was a like leader on the e-commerce side for Home Depot. So Home Depot, you've heard of Home Depot? Home Depot is based in Atlanta. So, massive e-commerce business. And so one of the guys who is in charge of the e-commerce business, is a mentor at the Tech Village. So, being able to demonstrate that I've done my research, I know who he is, I know his background, and then being able to not pitch my product, but position the conversation around what I want to talk about allows for a more productive conversation. I think most people intuitively understand that, but I think the hard part is how do you apply that to online?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Not everybody realizes that some of the same things you do transfer. Yeah, like you say, doing a little bit of research helps, especially on LinkedIn. Finding out how you relate to the person, meaning what's the common ground that's between both of you that both of you can walk on to go to higher ground. I think
Mhm.
sometimes we just want to grab the first prospect or lead we see and just drag them and say, let's go spend your money with my business. And it doesn't work like that. We need to remember the humanness of connecting on LinkedIn. And so when I send a connection invite, all right, I've gotten many, and I don't always accept every single one of, because some of them are like, "Hi, I see we have a few mutual connections. Let's
Yeah.
connect." Okay, all right. Maybe not, unless there's some in, intrinsic reason for me to actually connect. I don't see the point, because we have a few mutual connections. Everybody has a few mutual connections, right? So that doesn't really help you to stand out. um and then sometimes there's no message that comes with the connection invite at all, and I'll still accept. So I'd like to say, or I'd like to propose that, like, sending a connection note doesn't work unless you do one or two things. And I think that the main thing is actually personalize it, meaning don't send a generic connection note that you copy and pasted from ChatGPT. Actually personalize it. What is it about me that inspires you to connect with me? Was it that you saw one of my posts, a video with me and Colin, or did you see maybe a video of me on maybe like the radio station, podcast, other podcasting that I'm doing, or do you just think it's cool that I live in Jamaica and I'm doing lead generation, globally? Right? Like, kind of lead with actual personalization instead of just saying, "Hi, let's connect." I just think that's enough. Right? What
Yeah.
about you, Colin?
So, have you ever heard of the book Spin Selling?
Spin selling? No, tell me about it.
So, Spin Selling is a great. I think Spin Selling is a great book that teaches the art of sales from like a very mechanical perspective. It's like research based that did a lot of like a massive study on like what makes good salespeople good, like what makes conversion based sales, like how do you do it, and they break it down. But the framework that I would say is it's all about the art of the progression. So intuitively, good salespeople understand that you have to progress people towards a process. You can't pitch right away, right? That's intuitive to certain people who are a little bit more relationship focused, right? So, you're right. It's about personalizing it. But, going a step deeper, like how do you personalize? What are the stages? What spin selling breaks down is what are those stages? And the acronym is SPIN. So it's problem,
Situation, problem,
situation, problem, implication, needs payoff. So let's go
needs
through all
payoff.
those. Needs payoff. So
Situation.
let's go through those
Okay.
really quickly. Situation. You have to understand what someone says. You have to meet them where they're at. So the first thing to do is you got to get to know people. You got to, personalize. You got to get them talking. You got to get them engaged. Like you can't just immediately start pitching. You got to understand their situation. So you have to meet somebody where they're at and get them talking. That's the situation. Now, once you've identified the situation, you got somebody talking, you can move to the next stage, which is problem. You have to identify a problem. If there's no problem, then what are you doing selling? That's what good salespeople do. They're not trying to sell people unless there's a problem. So you have to meet somebody where they're at and identify what the problem is. And there's an art to how you go about maybe asking certain questions to identify someone's situation and understand if there's a problem. Once you've identified a situation and a problem, the next stage is an implication. You have to help the prospect understand what the implication is of not solving the problem. So if
Hmm.
somebody has a problem where they don't have leads and you've kind of identified them, you've identified, help them understand that they have a problem. What's the implication of that? Well, if they don't fix their lead problem, they're not going to make money. That's the implication. The implication is, no leads, no money, no leads, no traction. So you have to kind of work through by helping people understand what the implication is associated with not solving the problem. And only after you've gone through those stages can you do like needs payoff, right? So it's like trying to understand what, like quantifying like what the solution would be. You got to think through, okay, you understand that the implication is you're not going to get revenue. Well, what's the level of urgency of you needing revenue, right? What if somebody said, no, I have a massive business. I'm like, I don't really care, right? There's no needs payoff. They don't need this done right away. So you want to be able to kind of be able to naturally progress people into understanding the needs payoff, to understand like how to build a lasting relationship with somebody, to meet them where they're at, help them identify problems, and then flow them into a solution. And so those trajectories, what the spin selling talks about is all good salespeople are doing that naturally, whether or not they're aware consciously of them breaking it down that way. Some people it's just intuitive because they're relationship based. I want to get to know somebody. I want to help them solve problems. I want them to like get excited about solving the problem. And then I want to position my offer as the solution. And like, let's get excited about closing the deal. Some people are just naturally pretty good at that. But for people who are not good at it, I recommend the book, because the book is helping you understand how to do diagnostics and how to progress people towards each stage. So how do you apply that to LinkedIn? Well, it starts with a connection request, right? It's understanding the micro conversion of where you're at. Your micro conversion is not pitching your offer, which is more of like a needs payoff later stage of the funnel. The micro conversion is getting engagement, meeting somebody where they're at. You need to get them to, you need to diagnose their situation. You need to literally just open a conversation. So the micro conversion out of connection request is get an acceptance. So how do you get an acceptance? Well, I agree with you. Personalize it. State clearly why you're connecting with them. Don't make it seem broad and general. Personalize it. What I like to say is I'm trying to network with these types of people that, you know, are using the language of what they're using on their profile, whether or not that's employee benefit consultants in this particular space. I came across your profile. It looks like you have a great background or like an impressive background, and I would love to connect with you. That's it. I have a high connection acceptance rate from a message like that. That's
even that's better than, oh, I see we have a few mutual connections. Let us kind of, right. That makes sense because you're identifying what the common ground is, right?
Yeah.
I'm a benefits person, and you're somebody that helps benefits people, right?
Yeah.
So that's commonality right there, and it's just so tough to relate to people when there's nothing to relate to. So find something to relate to or relate with, right? That's going to be the foundation of your conversation, of your relationship going
Yeah.
forward. But I like the sound of that book though.
Yeah. That's the
You know, spin
situation
selling.
part of it. You have to build a
Yeah.
relationship with somebody. You have to meet them where they're at. And not like immediately go into the, are you having this problem? Because that's what a lot of people do on LinkedIn too. They jump to the problem without building the
Oh,
situation.
which is stage two. That's stage
Yeah.
two, right?
So you see why that's a throw off, because they immediately will pitch not their offer, but start promoting the problem. And it's like, dude, you haven't even buttered me up yet. You haven't even like said hello. You know, it's not like psychologically you're being rude, because it's like, are you experiencing all of this like problems with lead generation? And it's like, who are you?
It's like a TV ad.
That's what it is. Right. That's what they're doing. And so, you know, that's not, I mean, a TV ad is a different medium. So it's like you only get 30 seconds. So maybe you do want to, it's like a different medium. But when you're talking about like direct sales and trying to build relationships with customers, you can't jump to stage two, which is identifying problems, until you've met somebody where they're at, because then you're personalizing the problem to their business. That helps you drive towards the third stage, which is implications. Like, how real of a problem is this for you?
So start with assessing the situation.
Yes.
That's the S in spin selling. All right, I love that. All right. So, what are some good connection invites or notes that you've actually gotten? All right, I can maybe give a few examples.
Yeah, go for
All
it.
right. Yeah. So one example is, hey, so and so saw your post on X, Y, and Z. I couldn't agree more. Let's connect. I'm like, okay, great. So you actually read something that I wrote or put out, and you're complimenting. That's a compliment. And when you admire or compliment people's work, that's a great reason for them to want to connect with you. All right. What else has worked on me? Hey, saw you're working on XYZ. I respect your consistency in doing so and so. Can we connect? That's 2 points of personalization right there. And then third, I watched your YouTube video on so and so. I never fully understood when you said so and so. Can we have a quick chat? I'm like, okay. So now inquiring of somebody's intelligence, inquiring of their body of knowledge is also a great compliment because it says that you value what they know. And so that's more than enough reasons for somebody to jump on a call with you because everybody wants to talk about what they're good at and their expertise. And if they're already putting out content and their fans, their watchers, their listeners are not getting it, not understanding or interpreting what they're putting out, then there's gonna be some kind of a pull. I'll want to explain what I meant when I said X, Y, or Z on the Pursue Networking podcast, right? Or on Arrow's Internet Radio, right? Maybe I said it out of context. Maybe I need to clarify. So I'm happy to jump on a call. And I think in that initial conversation, if you do it right, you can get a feel of the person's situation, whether they're a prospect or it's just a chat that you want to have. I think that should give you, hints and clues as to what their situation is, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
people tend to talk about their problems, whether you want them to or not. Whether you want them to or not. But I like how you brought up the book of about spin selling because it seems to have some relation to this other topic I wanted to chat with you about active listening. All right, listening in selling. When you shut up and you close the deal by shutting up, you stop talking, and that's when you start to see results, right? By not overselling, you sell more,
Yeah.
right? Is that one of the concepts that spin selling is trying to like teach us, or is it
Yeah.
like totally left field,
No,
unrelated?
I think it's all intertwined. I think the my big takeaway from spin selling was just that certain things come natural to. I've seen this in my own experience of helping people with sales, helping people with LinkedIn, building networks. For some people, this comes so natural, and other people, it's so foreign. Um, and one of the ways to kind of think about it is sales. We've talked about this offline too. I'm against manipulation. Like sales isn't manipulation. Sales is relationships. So it's building relationships with people, meeting them where they're at and flowing them through a progression toward helping solve problems together. That's if you're a relationship type of guy or gal, that's natural. It's you're starting from the beginning and you're kind of flowing together and creating alignment. And how do you do that? Active listening. I mean, also diagnostics, right? Getting good at asking questions, but it's also asking the question and shutting up and then being able to ask the next question based off the answer versus what a lot of people I think are doing are a little too focused on the manipulation. So they're so focused on their script, so focused on what they want to say next and trying to that they're not actively listening to what the person said because they're so focused on what they need to do next. That's at the end of the day, that's manipulation. That's why certain people aren't good at sales. They're overthinking it. They think that a magic sequence of words is the distinguishing between the conversion. Oh, I should
Yeah,
have said this versus that. But a good salesperson knows that it's not about the words, it's about the progression. So, not pitching before you've met somebody
yeah,
is the art of the progression. And I think that the answer lies a lot in active listening. And that's a total learnable skill. That's the main thing that I want to preach to people because I wasn't always good at this. When I first started, especially on LinkedIn, I think I had a knack for it maybe in person. But once you are through a screen and you only have maybe 30 minutes of somebody's time, if that, 15 minutes, your natural instinct is to maybe overdo it by wanting to give all the information that you possibly have, that kind of maybe creates some bad habits of things that maybe you wouldn't do in person, that, you know, mean that you kind of rely on pitching a little bit or over explaining, talking more than you're listening. And I've found that when you're talking with, when you're networking with strangers, the key is to be honest, listen more than talk. Because if you can listen more than talk and get good at asking questions that lead to the conversation, lead to some control over the conversation, it allows you to progress a lot easier. And the art of doing this, it lies in your ability to do diagnostics and then progression towards like a resolution. And you can control somewhat based off your targeting and your questions, like where the conversation goes.
Hmm. Yeah, Matt, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was actively listening to you a while ago, and yeah, and it's been something I teach my people all the time, you know, on coaching calls, that listen more than you speak, ask questions. Don't go, for example, so I coach a team of people who do product sales, right? And sometimes they they jump right into pitching a product even before they even have permission from the customer to pitch, right? You're like ready to dive in. Hey, you know, I have so and so. I have this product, this product, this product. Which one? You know, what are you interested in? And right, and I'm like, but where did the customer say that they're even open to even hearing what you have available, right?
Yeah.
And so you kind of need to ask permission. Um, you know, is it okay, or are you willing to be a customer if I can help you? First of all, right? Are you even open to me sharing what I have? And if you get a yes there, then you kind of have permission to ask, okay, all right, what are your needs? But it's
Mhm.
more questions than statements, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
You
What
know?
I've actually found in my experience is if you can meet people where they're at and then get them talking about their problem and then even ask some questions about the implications around not solving the problem, you know, or that sounds like it's a real problem. Like what would happen if you don't solve it?
Yeah,
Um, like then what will naturally happen is they will
they
ask
sell
you,
themselves.
well, they're asking you how you can solve the problem, which is essentially asking you to pitch, right?
Hmm.
Not only are they
Yeah,
inviting you, you have to ask. They're like, well, what that's usually what happens, like in a natural cycle of like you've had a rapport, you've asked some questions that get them talking about their problem, and then they will either volunteer or you could kind of drive them towards talking about the implication of not solving the problem, and then they will stop you and say, well, look, I would love to learn more about what you do. How tell me more about your service or your offering. Now all of a sudden they've not only given you permission, but you have the information to pitch, like position your offering as a solution for the problem that they spoke about. To be honest, that's the art of pitching, in my opinion, that I learned the hard way because I didn't take people through that progression very well. What wound up happening is I was pitching a very broad set of offerings, let's say features, right? You're pitching a lot of features, but you wind up overwhelming people because you're not linking the offering to solving a particular problem. So in this world of lead generation, like for example, if you haven't gotten through the situation of the problem, you might find that they're only, let's say, active on LinkedIn, and you might be talking about how you have like a full suite of social media services. You could do YouTube, you could do Facebook, you could do Instagram, which might even be true. But if this person's not on those other social channels or doesn't want those social channels, you wind up over pitching because you
yeah,
haven't anchored towards their own desire. That's actually happened to me before. When I settled on LinkedIn, I actually was pitching a lot of people on things, but they really were just looking for a LinkedIn solution. So I wound up actually over pitching because I was so keen on explaining all the things that I could do. I was more focused, wasn't actively listening. I was actively pitching of all, look how all the things I could do. And it wound up making it harder to close the sale. But when I started actively listening and then got the, realization that they really wanted to grow on LinkedIn, I could, then they would invite me to say, well, how do you help people with LinkedIn? Boom.
Yeah.
Let me share.
It, great, 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 great. So active listening is key. It's not just in business, in relationships. If you're a parent, husband, wife, you know, any leadership position, active listening is key. And what I've noticed too, Colin, is people don't always say with their words what they feel or what they mean. I think the English language is a little limited. I think it doesn't communicate as comprehensively what you want to say. For example, there is one word that could mean four different things. For example, the word love, has so many different meanings depending on the context that you're using it in. So English can be a little limited, and I don't think everybody has well, most people have not mastered how to exactly communicate what they feel through their words. And so asking probing questions is just a non-negotiable. You gotta ask probing questions. When people say one thing, it yeah, is that really what they mean to say? And if you don't fully understand it, or if you think you understand, you probably still should ask. You know, like some probing questions that I like to ask are, okay, how do you feel when you see or hear XYZ that you just explained? Right? What do you sense when you see that problem recurring in your organization? Has this happened to you before, and how did it play out? Like
Mhm.
asking probing questions, it gives people a chance to articulate the same thing from multiple different angles. So you can then, when you do the cross section, you can see where the common theme and
Yeah.
see where things intersect. And you're like, okay, that's the problem. Because I've heard a little bit of it in this statement, I've heard a little bit of it in this response, and I heard a little bit of it in this answer. And I think, like, so let me ask you this. Would you say that your biggest problem is XYZ? And they're like, whoa, magic trick. How did you know? Yeah, that's exactly it. And you can
Yeah.
tell when people are, when you can tell when you've got it because they respond with
Yeah.
enthusiasm.
But do you
Right?
see what you did there where you didn't articulate the problem until you diagnosed the situation? And then for people who are promoting the problem without going through the situation, they're losing out on that ha-ha moment. What you described is somebody realizing that they're understood. That's what it is. It's they are looking at it and saying he understands me because he was actively listening to what I said. And what you would say as the salesperson is, well, I'm just repeating back to you what you said. Like, but I'm listening and I'm rephrasing it in a way that allows me to move on to the next stage. Okay, we got the problem. And you agree, I understand the problem. Now let's progress towards, you know, implications of not solving the problem and needs payoff, which is the offering that let's work together to solve the problem. So yeah, it's very that's a skill, personalizing and then problem stating.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that one thing that helps me because it can sometimes be a lot if you have a prospect who says a lot. You ask them what their
Yeah.
problem is, and they're going for like 5-10 minutes about what the problem is. You're getting lost, and you're not remembering key things that they said 4 minutes ago, so you're getting nervous. So something that I learned from an amazing client of mine, amazing copywriter, Kevin Friedberg. Shout out to Kevin Friedberg. Love you, man. He would do a Google Doc whenever he's on a call with a new prospect. He'd do a Google Doc and he would share screen and he'd have an agenda set out in advance, which asks key questions like what problem are you trying to solve, etc. And as they answer these questions, he would just type, and they're seeing what he's typing, so they know he's listening. Right?
Yeah.
If there's something that's maybe off, then they can clarify. And I've taken that on in my own business, and I've closed deal after deal after deal because at the end of the meeting, I have notes, right? They have access to the Google Doc as well, and their problem is clearly stated, and we can just we can break down we can break down the situation, the problem, the implications, and the needs payoff, all for
Yeah. Yeah.
SPIN, right
Yeah.
there in a Google Doc, live sharing
Yeah.
screen, and they have a copy, I have a copy, and it just tra- effortlessly transitions into the next stage of the sales process because of
Yep.
that. So that's
Yep.
a tool you could use
Yeah.
when actively listening and asking probing questions when you're on a sales call.
Yeah. I also think that from my experience, the advanced placement of this when you're get to a point of the needs payoff where you're pitching, let's just say, or you're introducing your offer, if you've done good active listening, you can, to your point, you said sometimes words can have different meaning, right? You're absolutely right about this. So the advanced placement is choosing your words carefully based off of what you think is going to resonate to the prospect. So, how do you choose your words to personalize based off of what they've told you? Let me give you an example. If we're talking about LinkedIn, um, the mechanics of how to get results on LinkedIn are the same. But depending on the prospect and what they've expressed as the problem, the situation, the implications, you might want to phrase the service offering slightly different. Do they talk about not wanting to do anything because they don't have time? Well, then maybe I play up the words done for you or done with you. Do they talk about wanting to get more noticed and more traction? Well, then why don't we talk about how we're going to help them with personal branding? We're going to help them become more of a influencer with thought leadership. Do they say that they are nervous to talk to people? Well, why don't we talk about how we're not going to post a lot? We're going to do prospecting, targeting, message templates. We're going to write out, done with you what we're going to say beforehand, so it's all pre-approved. Do you see how, like, if I just went through a list of all the things that I could possibly do that are things that we would do, some of those are going to resonate and some of those might scare them away, or at least in their heart, depending on who they are, the introverted or the extroverted. What is it that they're looking for? Do they want to get on calls with people? Do they not want to get on calls with people? Do they want their lead source to their sales reps? Whatever that is, you have to understand the situation, the problem, the implications. You have to understand the full person to be able to position, well, let me, now that I have permission to share, let me position what we can do for you in a way that's going to make you excited to move forward. Even if in my heart, I know that maybe in time I can get you out of your comfort zone, then maybe you should take calls. Maybe you should do more thought leadership. But if you're saying that you're an introverted person and you're nervous about how you're coming across in this sales cycle, let me not play that up. Let me make you feel comfortable by saying everything is done with you. Talk about all the experience that I have doing this, how we're going to run everything for you, how I'm going to insert myself on the team. We're going to work with your, like, whoever it is, your brand rep, your salesperson. Like, we're going to have like a bi-weekly meeting. Maybe make a joke that maybe in time I can get you posting a little bit more to get you a
Yeah.
little bit more exposure. Maybe we'll source those leads differently. What I learned is the way to close deals on LinkedIn is getting good at that. It's using your language and words precisely based off of the individual, by listening to what they said that they want, and then crafting, playing up certain features and down certain features, because at the end of the day, you're just trying to, it's the art of the progression. We're trying to close a deal here. So I don't want you walking away thinking anything other than he gets me. And that's my goal, because now
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're excited to move forward. And then over time, as we build a relationship, maybe I can get you out of your comfort zone a little bit. But I'm not going to try to do that in day one, because that's not my intent of the micro conversion. I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable. I'm trying to make you super comfortable about wanting to progress. And I actually learned that the hard way, because I used to promote all the features because I thought that if I showed more, it made me look better. But I actually realized by not closing deals that I was showing more and I was kind of overwhelming people, versus, being specific about what I'm showing. And, thinking more about the story in a personalized way that helps them understand the needs payoff. So it's like, well, the needs payoff is based off of what you see the needs payoff to be. And then maybe in time, I can think about some other things that we could do that, maybe you're not thinking about right now that would also help with lead generation more broadly, repurposing content, things like that, working with your team to amplify their accounts, trainings in certain ways, creating groups. Like there's things that we could do tactically that would help you solve your problem, but we don't need to get into that right now. So I'm going to purposely not talk about that and just focus on what I think you want to hear in this moment to kind of progress.
Hmm. Yeah. Make it relevant, make it tailored
Yeah.
to the person. And some people are just in a mood. They're just in a
Yeah.
particular mood. They had a bad day or they had a really good day. And sometimes they'll even come on and they'll commit to doing more than they actually will do because they're feeling good. Right? Maybe they had a drink before they came on the call. They're feeling like they can take on the world, but then tomorrow they're like, I can't believe I committed to doing that. I'm scared. Right? So strike a balance. Strike a balance. And even if you commit to something, when your client or your prospect commits to something, letting them know that it's okay if they change their mind, I think gives a sense of security, so they don't feel like they just locked into some deal with the devil. Right? They feel like they sold their soul, right? And there's no way to change it, so let me ghost. Because you don't
Yeah.
want them to ghost you because they overextended themselves on a commitment. So I even like to add, hey, if you change your mind, hey, just let me know if there's anything you want to add or anything you want to comment on or any questions. Hey, send it over. It's no hard feelings, no big deal. I wanna cater to you and your needs. Using
Yeah.
language that reinforces empathy, I think helps. I think that's the third most important thing to bear in mind. There's active listening, there is asking probing questions, and then I think there's empathy. Empathy is like actually caring about your prospect and not just trying to like close a deal. Like people can
Yeah.
tell when you don't really care, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't do the previous two things right. You don't listen and you don't ask questions about like how they're feeling. Because even though people may be logical, logical with air quotes, or try to be logical, they're still primarily emotional creatures. We all are. And if you don't take into consideration the emotions behind what people say or how they say it, you're gonna be blindsided so quickly, like a thief in the night. You'll lose that deal quicker than you can, say, pay. So empathy is so important.
Yeah.
Showing genuine care and an understanding for your prospect. So if they say, hey, they're having a tough day, maybe ask them about their day, like, what's happening, or at the end of the call, ask them, hey, what are you gonna do next? Like, how are you gonna spend the rest of your day? Like, you got kids, family. Like, how do you let your hair down? Let's put work aside just for a minute or two. Tell me about you. Right? I think that helps to pull everything together nicely
Yeah.
when there's empathy.
It's I mean, that goes back to I like really understanding the implication of what you're
Mhm.
working on together. I think that that's really important. I think sometimes in my experience for myself, I've always maybe shied away from that a little bit, making assumptions that you understand where people are at and what's going on. But I feel like as I've gotten better at building relationships with clients, yeah, it's having empathy to actually want to know the answers. So it's not just asking for the sake of asking, but it's asking with genuine curiosity because you do need to understand the implications of your work together. Like, how is it going? What happens if this doesn't work? Like, those are tough hitting questions, but your ability to ask those questions and align on the implications also help you understand the needs payoff because you we talked about this last week, but like you're starting to really align with your ICP at actually helping them grow their business. Because at the end of the day, that if your client's growing their business, then you are a stickier business
Yeah.
at the end of the day. So you're aligned so it's not just a matter of understanding the situation and understanding the problem that they're having, but what are the implications of not getting results. If you can do better at diagnosing that, it helps you maintain better relationships for the long term because you're now aligned in the more of the upside and like have a better understanding of the reality, like the status quo that allows you to assess their business and how it plays with your business.
Yeah, that's crispy. That's crispy. Love it. Love it. Love it. So hey, I think this is a great great chat we just had, Colin. I think I think this is good stuff. I'm kind of ready to bring on some guests,
Yeah,
onto the show.
yeah,
Right. I've been chatting with a few people in my network, and a few people are
yeah.
excited to come on, um,
Yeah, I'm
to
excited for
chat.
that too. I feel like also just thinking about the audience in mind, like we've been sharing a lot of our history of experience working with clients, but to be able to kind of start focusing a lot of these sessions on trying to meet people where they're at, understand their situation, understand their problems, doing it live, uh, helping them understand the implications of maybe not doing personal branding, like what that is costing them. Um,
Mm.
and then introducing them to our services, the software, just like creating content, putting themselves out there. I'm hoping that we can help people get better results. That's kind of the goal of what we're trying to strive to do here. How do we kind of create a forum in which people can share their story, pitch in a comfortable setting, and hopefully bring the audience along for whatever happens.
Yeah. All right. Great stuff. I even imagine role plays, sales role plays where somebody could, like, for example, just play, maybe not on the air, maybe not live, right? But I do with my people, out here in Jamaica all the time. They call me, like, sell me. To sell me on a product, and I want to hear active listening. I want to hear probing questions. Like, I want to hear empathy. I want to hear all 9 yards, right? And then I'll decide if I want to buy. Right? We could probably do that, provide some role plays, live sessions, and help people refine their engagement and positioning their offer if and when they end up on a sales call.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I found that the secret to success on LinkedIn is positioning. Messaging and positioning is everything. What distinguishes you from everybody else? Because nothing is new, but everyone has like a unique twist on it. Maybe it's you as an individual have been your story lends credibility to why you know more than other people. That's one. Or maybe you compete on your team because you have assembled a really good team that have been doing this, or maybe you're like very niche specific and you only work with these types of people. So, you're best in class at it. Whatever that is, I find that like a lot of times people aren't very good at articulating what their messaging and positioning is, and then understand how to structure the offer in a way that makes it easy for people to say yes.
Yeah, well said. Well said. So
Yeah.
hey, let's call it a day. Let's call it a day. Let's wrap up, and let's jump back in next week
Yeah.
for more networking tips, personal branding tips, yeah, and of course, how could I not mention? Check out the Pursue Networking tool. Just go to pursuenetworking.com, download it, have a 30-day free trial, and join the community as well, and stay tuned for more office hours.
See
Hey,
you next week.
hey, bless.